The stars had always been Lyra's home. For 200 years she had traveled between worlds, watching civilizations rise and fall from the safety of her small scout ship. She had seen planets covered in ice, worlds burning with fire, and moons where strange creatures swam through oceans of liquid metal. But she had never set foot on Earth. No ever did. Her people called it the Forbidden World, the primitive planet, the place where dangerous creatures lived short, violent lives and killed each other over small pieces of land. Lyra had read the ancient reports about humans. They were emotional, unpredictable. They started wars over ideas that made no logical sense. They destroyed their own planet while fighting about who should control it. Stay away from Earth, her teachers had told her when she was young. The humans are not worth our time. They will destroy themselves soon enough. Lyra had believed every word. Now, as her ship fell through Earth's atmosphere like a burning stone, she wondered if she would die on the very world she had been taught to fear. The warning lights flashed red all around her. Alarms screamed in her ears. Her fingers moved fast across the control panel trying to fix the damage, but it was too late. The engine had failed. The navigation system was dead. Her communication device showed only static. "Emergency beacon activated," the ship's computer said in its calm, empty voice, "sending distress signal." But Lyra knew no one would come. She was too far from any outpost. Her people did not patrol this part of the galaxy. They avoided it because of Earth, because of the humans. She was alone. The ship shook violently as it fell deeper into the atmosphere. Through the cracked window, Lyra could see the blue and green surface of Earth growing larger and larger. It was beautiful, she realized. Strange, but beautiful. Oceans that sparkled in the sunlight. Mountains covered in white snow. Forests that stretched for thousands of miles. For a moment, she forgot her fear. For a moment, she simply looked at the world she was about to die on. Then the ship hit something, a cloud perhaps, or a pocket of turbulent air, and Lyra was thrown from her seat. Her head struck the metal wall. Pain exploded behind her eyes. She tasted blood in her mouth. "Warning," the computer said. "Hull integrity failing. Impact in 90 seconds." Lyra tried to stand, but her legs would not obey her. She crawled across the floor, reaching for the emergency controls. If she could just activate the landing thrusters, maybe she could slow down enough to survive. Maybe she could. The lights went out. For a long moment, there was only darkness and silence. Lyra floated in that emptiness, feeling nothing, thinking nothing. Then the world returned in a rush of noise and fire. The ship was spinning now, tumbling through the sky like a leaf in a storm. Lyra could see flames outside the window. The heat was growing stronger. Her skin, normally cool and blue, began to burn. "I am going to die," she thought. The words were calm in her mind, almost peaceful. "I am going to die on the Forbidden World, and no one will ever know what happened to me." She thought of her home planet, the tall silver towers where she had grown up, the artificial gardens where flowers bloomed in perfect mathematical patterns. Her mother's face, always serious, always logical. Her father's hands, always busy with his scientific work. They would not mourn her, did not mourn. Death was simply the end of function, like a machine that stopped working. They would note her loss in their records, assign a new scout to her route, and continue as before. No one would cry for her. No one would remember her. The ground was close now. Lyra could see fields below, green and brown squares of farmland, simple and quiet in the night. No cities, no lights, just empty countryside. At least she would not kill any humans when she crashed. That thought brought her a small comfort. Despite everything she had been taught, she did not want to hurt anyone. She had never wanted to hurt anyone. "Impact in 10 seconds, the computer announced. Lyra closed her silver eyes. She tried to feel afraid, but there was no fear left in her. Only a strange, empty sadness, a feeling that something was ending before it truly began. 5 seconds. She whispered words in her native language. Not a prayer, did not believe in gods, just a simple goodbye to the stars she would never see again. 3 seconds. 2. 1. The world exploded. Lyra felt the impact through every cell in her body. Metal screamed as it tore apart. Fire roared like a living thing. She was thrown through the air, through the broken hull of her ship into the cold night. Then she hit the ground. The pain was beyond anything she had ever known. Her body was broken. She could feel it, bones shattered, organs damaged, blood leaking from wounds she could not see. The grass beneath her was wet and cold. Above her, the stars shone peacefully, as if nothing had happened. This is death, she thought. This is what it feels like to die. The fire from her ship burned nearby, casting orange light across the field. Lyra could smell smoke and fuel and something else, the strange, organic smell of earth, of plants and soil and life. She tried to move, but her body would not respond. She tried to call for help, but no sound came from her throat. She was trapped inside her own failing form, waiting for the end. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Lyra could not tell. Time had lost all meaning. There was only the cold ground beneath her, the distant fire, and the slow, steady fading of her consciousness. No one is coming, she reminded herself. No one will save you. This is the end. Her silver eyes stared up at the unfamiliar stars. Earth's sky looked different from what she was used to. The patterns were wrong. The colors were strange, but it was still beautiful, still peaceful. At least I will die looking at the stars, she thought. At least I will have that. The darkness began to creep in from the edges of her vision. Her heart slowed. Her breath became shallow and weak. She felt herself slipping away, falling into an endless void where there was no pain, no fear, no sadness. Just nothing. The last thing she heard before the darkness took her was the sound of footsteps. Heavy, quick footsteps, crunching through the grass toward her. But that was impossible. She was alone. No one was coming. She must be imagining it, a final trick of her dying brain. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Lyra tried to open her eyes, but they were too heavy. She tried to speak, but her voice was gone. Then she felt something she did not expect. A warm hand touched her face, gentle, careful, human. "Hold on," a voice said, a male voice speaking in a language she did not understand but somehow felt. "Hold on, I am going to help you." Impossible. But the hand was real, the voice was real, and somewhere in the darkness a tiny spark of hope flickered to life. Then Lyra let go, and the world disappeared completely. Lyra woke to warmth. This was wrong. This was impossible. Dead people did not feel warmth. Dead people did not feel anything at all. But she felt it, a soft, gentle heat surrounding her body like a blanket. No, not like a blanket. It was a blanket. Her fingers moved slowly, touching thick fabric that smelled of something clean and unfamiliar. She was lying on something soft, a bed, a real bed with pillows and sheets that had been washed recently. Her body still hurt, a deep aching pain that pulsed with every heartbeat, but she was alive. Against all logic, against everything she knew about her injuries, she was alive. Hell. Lyra tried to open her eyes, but the light was too bright. She made a small sound of pain and turned her head away from the window. "You are awake." The voice came from somewhere nearby, male, calm, speaking in a language she did not know but could somehow understand. Perhaps her translation implant had survived the crash. It was one of the few technologies built to last. Lyra forced her eyes open, blinking against the harsh morning light. A human sat beside her bed. He was older than she expected, not elderly but no longer young. His face was weathered and tired, with lines around his eyes that spoke of years of hard work. His hair was black, cut short and simple. His eyes were dark and serious, but not unkind. He was watching her with an expression she could not read. Concern, perhaps, or curiosity, or something else entirely. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, the alien and the human, two species that had never truly met before. Then the man smiled. It was a small smile, soft and gentle like the first light of dawn. There was no fear in it, no anger, no disgust at her strange appearance, just warmth. "You are safe," he said slowly, as if unsure whether she could understand. "You are safe here. No one will hurt you." Lyra stared at him. Her mind, still foggy from pain and exhaustion, struggled to process what was happening. She was on Earth, in a human dwelling, being cared for by a human. This was not possible. This went against everything she had ever learned. Humans were dangerous. Humans were violent. Humans would sooner kill an alien than help one. But this man was smiling at her. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry and damaged. Only a rough, croaking sound came out. The man understood. He reached for something on the table beside him, a cup filled with clear liquid, water. He held it carefully to her lips, supporting her head with his other hand. "Drink slowly," he said. "You have been asleep for 3 days. Your body needs time." 3 days. She had been unconscious for 3 days, and during that time this human had kept her alive. The water was cool and clean. It tasted different from anything she had drunk before, earthy, organic, real. She swallowed gratefully, feeling the liquid soothe her burning throat. When she finished, the man set the cup down and sat back in his chair. He did not move away. He did not show any sign of wanting to leave. "My name is," he said, pointing to himself, "and you are?" Lyra understood the question. She tried again to speak, and this time her voice came out as a weak whisper. "Lyra." Nodded. "Lyra," he repeated, as if testing the sound of it. "That is a nice name." He said it simply, without any hidden meaning, just a small kindness offered freely. Lyra did not know how to respond, did not compliment each other. They stated facts. They exchanged information. They did not waste words on something as pointless as saying a name was nice. But somehow, hearing this human say it made her feel something warm in her chest, something she had no name for. "Where?" she managed to whisper. "Where am I?" "My farm," answered. "In the countryside, far from the cities. You crashed in my field 3 nights ago. I saw the fire and went to look. I found you." He paused, his expression becoming more serious. "You were dying," he continued. "Broken bones, internal bleeding, burns on your skin. I did not know what to do. Your body is different, but I am a healer. I work with animals mostly, but I was trained as a military doctor many years ago. I did what I could." He looked down at his hands, large, rough hands, covered in small scars and calluses. "I did not know if it would work. I did not know if I was helping or hurting, but I could not just leave you there. I could not let you die." Lyra listened to his words, trying to understand. He had saved her. This human, this creature from the species her people feared and avoided, had pulled her from the wreckage and spent 3 days keeping her alive. "Why?" "Your people," she whispered. "Will they come? Will they take me?" Something changed in his face. A hardness entered his eyes. "No," he said firmly. "I did not tell anyone about you. I buried the pieces of your ship that I could find. I told my neighbors the fire was from an old gas tank that exploded. No one knows you are here." He met her gaze directly. "I do not know where you come from or why you were flying over my field, but I know what my government would do if they found you. Scientists would study you. Military people would question you. You would become a prisoner or worse." He shook his head slowly. "I could not allow that. You are hurt. You are alone. You needed help, not more suffering." Lyra felt something wet on her face. She touched her cheek and found moisture there. Tears. She was crying. Rarely cried, their tear ducts were functional but seldom used. But now, hearing this human's words, she could not stop the tears from falling. He had risked himself for her. He had lied to protect her. He expected nothing in return. He did it simply because she needed help. This was not logical. This was not how intelligent beings were supposed to behave. You did not sacrifice your safety for strangers. You did not lie to your own people for an alien you had never met, but had done exactly that. "Why?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Why did you save me?" Looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled again, that same gentle, warm smile. "You were hurt," he said, as if the answer was obvious. "What else would I do? What else would I do?" Such simple words, such a simple idea, and yet Lyra could not understand it. Her people would never act this way. If found an injured alien, they would calculate the costs and benefits. They would consider the risks. They would make a logical decision based on what was best for themselves and their species. They would never save someone simply because that person needed saving. But this human did. Lyra really looked at him and saw something she had never seen before. Not a primitive creature, not a dangerous animal, not a thing to be feared and avoided. Just a person, a kind, tired, lonely person who had seen someone suffering and chose to help. "Thank you," she whispered. The words felt strange in her mouth, inadequate for what she wanted to express, but they were all she had. "Thank you." He nodded and stood up slowly. "Rest now," he said. "Your body needs to heal. I will bring food later. I do not know what your kind eats, but I will try to find something that works." He walked toward the door, then paused and looked back. "You are safe here, Lyra. I promise. No one will hurt you while you are in my house." Then he was gone, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Lyra lay in the warm bed, staring at the wooden ceiling above her. Outside the window, birds sang songs she had never heard before. The sun was rising higher, filling the room with golden light. She was alive. She was safe. And for the first time in her 200 years, she began to wonder if everything she had been taught about humans was wrong. Days passed slowly on the farm. Lyra spent most of her time in the small bedroom, watching the world outside through the window. The view was simple: green fields, distant mountains, a narrow dirt road that disappeared into the trees. No tall buildings, no advanced technology, no signs of the civilization her people had warned her about. Just land, just sky, just peace. Her body healed faster than she expected, were stronger than humans in many ways, and her cells repaired themselves with remarkable speed. The broken bones mended, the internal wounds closed, the burns on her skin faded to pale scars. But even as her body recovered, her mind remained confused. Every day came to check on her. He brought food, strange earth dishes that she had never tasted before, rice wrapped in vegetables, warm soup with floating pieces of meat and noodles, sweet fruits that dripped juice when she bit into them. Most of it was edible, though some flavors were too strong for her sensitive tongue. He never complained when she could not finish a meal. He never showed frustration when she could not explain what she needed. He simply tried again the next day with something different. "You are patient," Lyra said one morning, after he brought her a bowl of something called kanji. "Why are you so patient with me?" Shrugged as if the question confused him. "Healing takes time. I learned that a long time ago. There is no point in rushing." He sat in his usual chair beside her bed, the same chair he had occupied when she first woke up. He seemed comfortable there, as if sitting with her had become a natural part of his day. "Tell me about your people," he said. "If you want to, I am curious." Lyra hesitated. She had been taught never to share information about society with outsiders. It was a matter of security, a matter of control. But had saved her life. He deserved some truth. "We call ourselves," she began slowly. "Our planet is far from here, thousands of light years away. We have traveled the stars for millions of years, watching other species, studying them. But we rarely make contact. We prefer to observe from a distance." "Why?" "Because contact is dangerous. Other species are unpredictable, emotional. They make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. My people believe it is safer to stay separate. Nodded thoughtfully. And what did your people say about humans? Lyra looked away, shame creeping into her chest. They said you were primitive, violent, that you fight wars over small pieces of land and kill each other over ideas that make no sense. They said Earth was too dangerous to visit. She expected him to be angry. She expected him to defend his species, to argue against her words. But only sighed. They are not entirely wrong, he admitted quietly. Humans have done terrible things throughout history. We have fought wars. We have hurt each other. We have destroyed much of our own world. He paused, his dark eyes distant. But that is not all we are. We are also capable of great kindness, great love, great sacrifice. The same species that creates weapons also creates art. The same people who fight also heal. He looked at her directly. We are complicated. I think that is the truth about humans. We are neither all good nor all bad. We are simply trying. Lyra considered his words. They were different from anything she had learned. Her teachers had always presented other species in simple terms, dangerous or harmless, useful or worthless. There was no room for complexity in thinking. But complexity was exactly what described. A species that contained both darkness and light, constantly struggling between them. It was a frightening idea, but also somehow a beautiful one. As the days continued, Lyra began to leave the bedroom. Her legs were strong enough to carry her now, though she still moved slowly and carefully. She explored the small farmhouse with cautious curiosity. The building was old and simple, wooden walls, stone floors, furniture that had been used for many years and repaired when it broke. Nothing was new, nothing was advanced. Everything showed signs of time and wear. But there was warmth here, a feeling that Lyra could not define but could definitely sense. This was a home, a place where someone had lived and laughed and loved. She found photographs on a shelf in the main room, images of at different ages, as a young soldier in uniform, as a smiling man holding a medical certificate, and most often standing beside a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. My wife, said from behind her. Lyra had not heard him approach. Her name was, she passed away 3 years ago, illness. His voice was calm, but Lyra could hear the pain beneath it. Old pain, deep pain, the kind that never fully healed. I am sorry, she said. The words felt insufficient, but she did not know what else to offer. Picked up one of the photographs, the two of them on their wedding day, young and happy and full of hope. She would have liked you, he said softly. She was always curious about the world, always asking questions about things she did not understand. If she had known there was life among the stars, she would have had 1,000 questions. He placed the photograph back on the shelf with gentle care. I miss her every day, but I am grateful for the time we had together. 20 years of love, 20 years of partnership. That is more than many people get. Lyra watched him, fascinated and confused. Did not form attachments this way. Their partnerships were logical arrangements, designed to produce healthy offspring and efficient households. The idea of missing someone after they died, of carrying that grief for years, was foreign to her. Does it hurt, she asked, loving someone knowing you will lose them? Smiled, that sad, warm smile she was beginning to recognize. Yes, he said honestly. It hurts more than anything, but I would not trade it. The love was worth the pain, it always is. Love was worth the pain. Another idea Lyra had never considered. Her people avoided pain whenever possible. They made choices that minimized suffering, maximized efficiency, produced optimal outcomes. Why would anyone choose something that guaranteed hurt? But as she watched return to his daily work, feeding the animals, tending the garden, fixing a broken fence, she began to understand. He was not happy in the way defined happiness. He carried grief with him constantly. He lived alone in a house full of memories. His days were simple and repetitive. And yet there was peace in him, contentment, a quiet acceptance of his life that seemed almost sacred. He had loved, he had lost, and he continued living anyway. That night Lyra sat outside on the small porch, looking up at the stars. Sat beside her, drinking something warm from a ceramic cup. "It is strange," she said quietly, "being here seeing how you live." "Strange good or strange bad?" asked. Lyra thought about it. "I do not know yet, just strange, different from everything I expected." Nodded. "Maybe that is not a bad thing. Sometimes we need our expectations to be broken. Sometimes we need to see things as they really are, not as we were told they are." He took a sip from his cup. "When I was young, I was angry at the world. I thought everything was unfair, that the universe owed me something. Then I met, and she taught me that life is not about what you are owed. It is about what you give." He looked at Lyra, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Maybe you came here for a reason, Lyra. Maybe you crashed in my field so you could learn something new. Or maybe it was just an accident with no meaning at all. Either way, you are here now, and you get to decide what that means." Lyra did not respond. She simply looked at the stars, her stars, the ones she had traveled between for centuries, and wondered how she had never truly seen them before. 2 weeks after the crash, Lyra was strong enough to walk for hours without rest. Her body had healed almost completely, leaving only faint silver scars where the worst wounds had been. She could eat most human foods now, though she still preferred the milder flavors. She could speak the local language clearly, thanks to her translation implant learning from every conversation. She should have been planning her escape. She should have been searching for a way to contact her people, to send a signal into the stars and wait for rescue. That was the logical thing to do. That was what any would do. But Lyra did not want to leave, not yet. She told herself it was because she was still recovering. She told herself it was because she needed more time to understand this planet, to gather information that might be useful to her people. She told herself many reasonable things. But the truth was simpler. She was not ready to say goodbye to. One morning, he surprised her with a proposal. "I need to go to the village today," he said over breakfast. "I have medicine to pick up for one of my neighbor's cows. You could come with me if you want." Lyra looked at him with alarm. "The village, but people will see me, my skin, my eyes. They will know I am not human." Smiled. "We will cover your skin with long clothes. I have a hat that will hide your face. And your eyes, well, we can say you have a medical condition. Humans are strange about many things, but we are also good at ignoring what we do not want to see." It was a risk, a significant one, but Lyra found herself nodding. "Yes," she said, "I want to come." An hour later, they were walking down the dirt road toward the village. Lyra wore a long coat that covered her arms and hands, despite the warm weather. A wide hat shaded her face and hid her silver eyes. She looked strange, perhaps, but not impossible. The village was small, a collection of old buildings clustered around a narrow main street. There was a general store, a restaurant, a medical clinic, and a handful of houses with vegetable gardens in the front yards. People walked slowly, greeting each other as they passed. Old women sat on porches, watching the world go by. Lyra stayed close to, her heart beating fast with nervousness. Every human face seemed to be looking at her. Every pair of eyes seemed to be searching for the truth beneath her disguise. But no one stared, no one pointed, no one screamed in fear or called for weapons. They simply nodded politely and continued with their day. An elderly woman called from her porch. "You are out early today. How is your back, still giving you trouble?" "Better than yesterday," replied with a small wave. "Thank you for asking." The woman smiled and returned to her knitting. "You know everyone here," Lyra observed quietly. "I have lived in this area my whole life," explained. "So did my parents and their parents before them. These people are my community. They helped me when died. They brought food to my house for weeks, even though I never asked them to. Why would they do that? Because that is what people do. When someone is suffering, you help them. It is not complicated. But it was complicated, at least to Lyra. Did not behave this way. They formed efficient networks based on mutual benefit. They exchanged services for services, goods for goods. There was no giving without expectation of return. Yet these humans, these simple village humans, helped each other simply because they could. As they walked through the main street, Lyra noticed a group of children playing in a small park. They were chasing each other, laughing wildly, falling down and getting up again without care. One small boy tripped and scraped his knee. He started to cry. Immediately, an older girl, perhaps his sister, ran to him. She knelt down, examined his wound, and pulled a small bandage from her pocket. She cleaned the scrape gently and covered it, speaking soft words that Lyra could not hear. The boy stopped crying. He hugged the girl tightly. Then he ran off to play again, his pain already forgotten. Such a small moment, such a tiny kindness, but Lyra could not look away. "They take care of each other," she said quietly. Followed her gaze. Children learn what they see. If they grow up watching people help each other, they learn to help too. It is how kindness spreads. They continued walking, stopping at the clinic to pick up the medicine. The doctor, a tired woman with hair, asked about his mysterious companion. "A relative from far away," said smoothly. "She has a skin condition, sensitive to sunlight." The doctor nodded, accepting the explanation without question. She handed over the medicine and wished them a good day. Outside, Lyra felt something strange rising in her chest. Relief, perhaps, or gratitude, or something else entirely. "They believed you," she said. "They did not ask questions." "People generally believe what makes sense to them," replied. "And most people do not want to believe in impossible things. It is easier to accept a simple explanation than to confront a complicated truth." On the walk home, they passed a small house where an old man was struggling to repair his roof. He moved slowly, his body bent with age, and the work was clearly too difficult for him. Without a word, changed direction and walked toward the house. "What are you doing?" Lyra asked. "Helping." For the next hour, climbed onto the roof and completed the repairs himself. Lyra watched from the ground, confused and fascinated. The old man thanked repeatedly, offering food and money, but refused everything. "Neighbors help neighbors," he said simply. "You would do the same for me." The old man laughed. "I am too old to climb roofs, but I will bring you fresh vegetables when my garden produces next month. Fair." Smiled and shook the man's hand. "Fair." Walking home, Lyra was silent for a long time. Her mind was processing everything she had seen. The children, the village, the old man, the countless small acts of kindness that seemed to define these people. Finally she spoke. "Your lives are so short. You have perhaps 80 years if you are lucky. How do you bear it? How do you not despair at the briefness of your existence?" Consider the question carefully before answering. Maybe that is exactly why we are this way. Because our time is short, we try to make each moment matter. We love fiercely because we know love will not last forever. We help each other because we know we all need help eventually. We build families and communities because we cannot survive alone. He looked at the setting sun, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "My people have a saying, 'The candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long.' Perhaps that is what humans are, candles burning brightly against the darkness, knowing we will eventually go out." Lyra felt moisture in her eyes again, tears. She was crying for the second time since arriving on this planet. "That is beautiful," she whispered, "and terribly sad." "Yes," agreed. "It is both, but I think the beauty is worth the sadness. I think loving and losing is better than never loving at all." They walked the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. Lyra thought about everything she had witnessed, everything she had learned. Her people were wrong about humans, not wrong about the violence, that part was true, but wrong about what violence meant. Humans were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they cared. They fought and died for each other. They sacrificed themselves for strangers. They loved with an intensity that could move mountains and start wars. No logical species did that. And perhaps that was exactly what made humans special. That night, sitting on the porch with Lyra, made a decision. She would not contact her people. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. She wanted to learn more. She wanted to understand these strange, beautiful, impossible creatures who burned so brightly against the darkness. She wanted to stay. The night was cold and still when they came. Lyra woke suddenly, her heart's pounding in her chest. Something was wrong. She could feel it in the air, a strange vibration, a frequency that only senses could detect. The hum of an engine, the pulse of advanced technology. Her people had found her. She sat up in bed, fear washing over her like a wave of ice water. For a moment, she considered hiding, pretending she was not there, hoping they would search the area and move on. But she knew that was impossible. Scanners could detect a single heartbeat from miles away. They already knew exactly where she was. Slowly, carefully, she climbed out of bed and walked to the window. The ship hung in the darkness above the field, a sleek silver vessel, barely visible against the night sky. It made no sound as it descended, its anti-gravity system silencing what should have been a roar of engines. Lights flickered along its surface, scanning the ground below. They had come for her. Lyra heard footsteps in the hallway, appeared in her doorway already dressed, his face serious and alert. "I heard something," he said quietly. "Something outside, what is it?" Lyra turned to face him. Her silver eyes reflected the distant lights of the ship. "My people," she said, "they found me, they are here." His expression did not change. He did not panic. He did not run. He simply nodded as if he had expected this moment all along. "What do they want?" Lyra thought about lying. She thought about telling him it was just a rescue mission, that her people had come to take her home. But she could not lie to him, not after everything he had done for her. "I do not know exactly," she admitted, "but I fear it is not good. Do not tolerate contamination. I have spent too much time among humans. I know too much about your world. They may want to erase my memories, or they may want to silence me permanently." His jaw tightened. "And me, do they know about me?" "Yes, you have seen too much. You have helped me. In their eyes, that makes you a threat." For a long moment was silent. Lyra expected him to be afraid. She expected him to blame her for bringing danger to his home. Instead, he walked to a small cabinet in the corner of the room and opened it. Inside was an old radio device, modified with strange wires and circuits that Lyra did not recognize. "I found pieces of your ship," he said calmly. "Communication parts. I have been working on them every night after you went to sleep. I figured out how to connect them to human frequencies." He looked at her directly. "I knew this might happen. I knew someone might come for you eventually, so I prepared." Lyra stared at him in amazement. "You built a communication device from my wreckage." "I was an engineer before I was a doctor," said with a small smile. "Old skills never completely fade. This device can send a signal across every emergency frequency in the region. Police, military, news channels, everyone. But what good will that do? Have technology far beyond anything on Earth. Your people cannot fight them." Smile widened slightly. "Maybe not, but they can witness. They can record. And if your people know that humans are watching, that the whole world might see what happens here, maybe they will think twice before doing something they cannot take back." It was a gamble, a desperate, foolish gamble that should not work against a species as advanced as the. But it was also brilliant. Outside, the ship had landed. Lyra could see three figures emerging from its surface, tall, slender forms dressed in the dark uniforms of security forces. They moved with the smooth, efficient grace of soldiers trained for 1,000 years of service. "Stay here," Lyra said. "Let me talk to them first." No's voice was firm. "We face them together." Before Lyra could argue, he walked out of the room and headed for the front door. She followed quickly, her hearts racing with fear and something else, something that felt strangely like hope. They stepped outside into the cold night air. The three stood in the field watching them approach. One stepped forward, a female with sharp features and cold eyes. Her expression showed no emotion. "Scout Officer Lyra," she said in their native language. "You are alive, that is surprising." Lyra stepped forward, placing herself between the soldiers and, "Commander, I did not expect a recovery team. You activated your emergency beacon. Did you think we would not respond?" "I thought the signal was too weak. I thought no one would hear." Commander smiled, a thin, humorless smile. "Your people always hear, Lyra, eventually." She glanced past Lyra, who stood calmly behind her, his hands at his sides. "The human, he knows about us. He saved my life." "That is unfortunate. His knowledge makes him a liability. Both of you are contaminated now. You know the protocols." Lyra felt her heart sink. She had hoped, foolishly, that there might be another way, that her people might show mercy, but did not understand mercy. They understood only logic, and logic demanded the elimination of risks. "I will not let you harm him," Lyra said, her voice steady despite her fear. "He is innocent. He helped me when I was dying. He deserves protection, not punishment." Commander tilted her head slightly. "You speak as if you have a choice. You do not. You will return with us. Your memories will be erased. The human will be dealt with appropriately. This is not a negotiation." "Then what is it?" "A courtesy. We are giving you the opportunity to cooperate peacefully. It will be easier for everyone." Behind Lyra took a step forward. He was holding the modified radio device in his hand. "Excuse me," he said in a calm, clear voice. "I do not speak your language, so I hope you can understand mine." Commander looked at him with something close to amusement. "The human speaks. How quaint." "I want you to know something," continued, ignoring her dismissal. "I have activated a signal that is broadcasting this entire conversation to every emergency frequency on this continent. Police, military, news stations, they are all listening right now. Some may already be on their way." Commander's amusement faded. "That is impossible. Our technology blocks all local communications." "Your technology blocks normal frequencies," agreed. "But this device uses your own transmitter components. It operates on a different wavelength, one you cannot block because it is your own." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Commander's face. She looked at the other soldiers, who were already scanning the area with their devices. "He is telling the truth," one of them reported. "There is an active signal. It is spreading across multiple human networks." Commander's expression hardened. "Then we must act quickly, eliminate the transmission source and—" "If you hurt him," Lyra interrupted, her voice rising, "I will tell everyone. I will broadcast everything I know about the Empire, our locations, our weaknesses, our secrets, across every channel his device can reach. I will make sure the humans know exactly who you are and where to find you." It was a threat she had never imagined making, a betrayal of everything she had been taught. But standing there, looking at its calm face, she knew she meant every word. Commander stared at her. "You would not. You would condemn your own people." "My own people left me to die. This human saved me. If I must choose between you and him, the choice is easy." Silence fell over the field. The wind rustled through the grass. In the distance, Lyra could hear the faint sound of sirens, human vehicles approaching fast. Commander looked at the sky, then at her soldiers, then back at Lyra. Her calculations were visible in her eyes, the risks, the costs, the potential consequences of every action. Finally, she spoke. "This is not over. We will report what has happened here. Higher authorities will decide your fate, both of your fates." She turned and walked back toward the ship, her soldiers following close behind. At the door of the vessel, she paused and looked back. "You have made a powerful enemy today, Lyra. I hope your human was worth it." The ship rose silently into the air and disappeared into the darkness. Within seconds, it was gone, leaving only the cold night and the distant sound of approaching sirens. Lyra stood motionless, her body trembling. She had just threatened her own people. She had chosen a human over her species. Nothing would ever be the same. His hand touched her shoulder gently. "Are you all right?" he asked. Lyra turned to look at him. His face was calm, kind, the same face she had woken up to 3 weeks ago. "I do not know," she said honestly. "I think I just changed everything." Nodded. Sometimes change is necessary. Sometimes it is the only way forward. He looked up at the stars, the same stars Lyra had traveled between for 2 centuries. "Whatever happens next, we will face it together, okay?" Lyra felt something warm in her chest, something that pushed back against the fear and the uncertainty. "Okay," she whispered, "together."